Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Whiskey Tasting. Today we are going to taste Macallan 18. Um, Macallan 18 is one of those whiskies, especially the sherry cask one, uh, is one of those whiskies that I have always been picking up whenever I want to pick an 18-year-old whiskey. For many years, this has been my go-to whiskey, especially when I feel I want to taste something really good. Um, Recently, the quality has fallen down, and this one is the 2018 edition. And after 2018, I have stopped buying this 18-year-old Macallan sherry cask. So everything before that, 2016, 17, 18, even 14 and 15, really had that very nice sherry cask influence. So that's why Macallan 18 has always been my go-to whiskey. Um, this one I feel is the last best. Still not as good as the previous one, but still quite good. You can see I have finished almost to this extent. So let's see how this whiskey tastes. But before that, I want to say that for people who may not know what is sherry cask or whiskey matured in sherry cask, those barrels, those casks that in which the whiskey is poured. See, when whiskey comes out of, once it is distilled, right, when the barley is malted, fermented, and distilled, after it comes out of the pipes and when it is condensed, it's called the new spirit. It's just like water, right? It has no color, nothing, no flavor, nothing. It just is a pure alcohol based malt spirit. Now once that is put inside the cask, everything is from the cask. The flavors, the color, the feel, the oiliness, the texture, everything is a resultant of the liquid interacting with the casks. Now these casks may or may not have held previous whiskies or other type of wines or spirits before. So one of them is the sherry cask. The sherry casks refer to casks which previously held sherry wines from Spain. So there are quite a few sherries like Pedro Jimenez, Oloroso, Fino. So these are some of those casks which used to to store those sherries, right? After they take out those sherries, the whiskies are some of those casks are sent to the whiskey companies, the distilleries. They buy those casks and then they put the whiskies into that to mature. Sometimes it's also impractical to buy all those sherry casks from, because the bodegas, they feel that they want to retain those casks for themselves. Some even retain it for more than 150 years. But sometimes what happens is these distillers, they try to give them some casks to the sherry bodegas and try to tell them, hey, please season this for 2 years, 3 years, and after that give the cask back to me. So the sherry influence in the cask can help me to mature my whiskey. So that's possible. So Macallan, Tamdu, and some distilleries, they do give those casks to those bodegas who make sherry wines, and then get those seasoned cask, and then they further mature the whiskies. So sherry cask whiskies is one of my very favorite whiskies. If you look at, I just have another bottle here. If you look at the color, right, this is a first fill after the sherry has been taken out, the whiskey has been put inside. So you can see the color. This is a natural color, and how dark, and you can look at that. It gives you a very brownish reddish color. So all that has been because of the pigmentation from the wood. The whiskey gets the color from the wood, which had held the sherry cask. Okay, so it also brings in a nice layer of juiciness, a flavor, some dry fruits like figs, like dates, some dark chocolates, sultanas, raisins. Um, um, I will speak a few words in Tamil. இந்த விஸ்கியில் என்னன்னா வந்து இந்த கேஸ்க் வந்து ரொம்ப இம்பார்ட்டண்ட். இந்த கேஸ்கில் வந்துட்டு இதுக்கு முன்னாடி வந்து அவங்க ஷெரி வைன் மெச்சூர் பண்ணியிருந்தாங்கன்னா வந்து அந்த ஃப்ளேவர்ஸ் அது வந்து ஒரு நல்ல வந்து ஒரு ஒரு ஸ்பைசினஸ், ஒரு சின்னமன், நம்ம வந்து ஒரு பட்டை, அப்புறம் வந்து லவங்கம், அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு நல்ல ஃப்ளேவர், நல்ல வந்து திராட்சை, கருப்பு திராட்சை, இந்த மாதிரி டேட்ஸ், இந்த மாதிரியான ஃப்ளேவர் வந்து அந்த விஸ்கிக்கு வரும். ஸோ அதனால வந்து அந்த ஷெரி காஸ்க் விஸ்கிஸ் வந்து நார்மலி வந்து மார்க்கெட்டில் வந்துட்டு ஒரு நார்மல் எக்ஸ் பர்பன் கேஸ்க்குக்கும் ஷெரி காஸ்க்குக்கும் கம்பேர் பண்ணிங்கன்னா ஷெரி காஸ்க் வந்து கொஞ்சம் காஸ்ட் ஜாஸ்தியாக இருக்கும். ஸோ அதான் வந்துட்டு ஷெரி காஸ்க். I'll switch back to Tamil. I switch back to English, sorry. So today let's try Macallan 18. So this is 43% ABV and no artificial color, all natural color, um, and matured in ex-sherry casks. So look at the color; it's quite copperish. A lot of spices, cinnamon, ginger, some raisins, some cloves. This is a very elegant whiskey. The first thing that you will notice as soon as you nose is it's got a subtle elegance to it, some richness, some warm spiciness. Though this whiskey is 2018, and as I mentioned before, it's not as fantastic as the previous year whiskies used to be, like 2014, 10, 12. I would say still a very nice nice whiskey. Has a lot of warm spiciness, um, very savory, very tasty. On the mouth, I feel that particular Macallan, that orange peel, that ginger, that warm spiciness. So that's typically the Macallan sherry cask character, and it is also quite evident, quite nice. In the finish, it's a little bit dry, but there's a bit of sweet. There's a bit of oak spice, slightly um, a bit of oak spice towards the end of it. Um, very warm, very rich, very mellowish, very elegant, very rounded, quite nice whiskey. So the sherry cask typically brings in that dark fruits like raisins, dates, those kind of flavor, a little bit of oak spice, fantastic, very rich, very warm, very mouth coating, and very elegant. See, when I started drinking whiskey many years ago, I never imagined that whiskeys can be so savory, has a lot of flavors and things like that. Initially, when I started, I used to taste few brands which are quite bland, quite flat, and later I used to try some blended malts. But later on, once I started getting into specific tastings like this one, like the sherry cask matured whiskey, I really fell in love with whiskey, and that's what brought me to be a whiskey connoisseur. And I'm still learning. I'm still a student, but I believe someday or the other, when you start tasting those whiskeys as you move along in your journey, you will slowly recognize and you will appreciate that whiskey is a fantastic drink, especially these kind of whiskies which are matured in sherry casks. Um, it's unimaginable, in the mouth. It's quite rich. It's almost like cocoa. It's some a bit of cardamom, some ginger, and all these flavors, all these things just merely come from the cask. There's no flavor injected. Some people ask me, sir, do they inject some flavor into the cask? Do they add some spice powder? Nothing. All that flavor, everything that we see, the dried orange peel, which is typical Macallan character that I get now in the aftertaste and also in the palate, these are things which are from the casks. There's nothing that they add, okay, and that shows the mastery and the wizardiness in picking up those casks and how they mature with years and years and years of experience in blending and malting and bottling and picking up the right casks to bottle. One of the things that I would also want to highlight is these kind of bottles. These are not just one cask. These are like Macallan will bottle every time when they decide to bottle, they will select minimum of 50 casks. So for an annual release like this, they might be vatting whiskies from so many casks, but still they're able to make this so consistent in terms of the flavor and the profile. Even though, as I mentioned, that the amount of sherry, the influence of sherry, the amount of sherry matured, the first uh, there can be first fill sherry casks, there can be refill sherry casks also. But I believe looking at the color and looking at the intensity of flavor compared to the previous years, I can say that maybe the proportion of the sherry cask used has come down. Maybe they use more of refill sherry cask, etc. But still, I would say it's a very high quality 18-year-old whiskey, and it's quite rich, elegant, warm, spicy, and a bit of fruitiness. One of the very nicest whiskies around. But as I mentioned to you, that the quality has come down a bit in terms of the proportion of sherry cask used. So I feel that at the current market price, there may be better options, but still is one of the very good whiskies around. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another whiskey tasting video. Bye bye.